opening the portal. How's it going? Yeah, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm Demon's Mind. For today's video, we're gonna dive into the story that I've been scribbling away at. This is the third video. That's the third video. I'm doing like this mini series where I take the meat and potatoes of the initial first 3-minute video that I posted and going into like more detail into the topics that I mentioned in there. So this is the final one. It's probably going to be the final one. And this one's again talking about the story, what it is, diving not super deep into it, but more like an overview look. I have my whiteboard here. This is just here for me to kind of keep myself in check and just have like a visual reference of like what I'm talking about. I thought it would look really good or whatever. So that's the point of the whiteboard. And do subscribe. Your boy wants a McLaren P1. Make my dreams come true. Don't let my dreams be dreams. So that's the topic of today's video. Just my story. What is it about? All that jazz. And I think I'll write down my first talking point, I guess, or the first point of discussion right now, and then we'll jump into this. Yes. Professional. So the first talking point will be, what's the flavor? What's the flavor? What do I mean by that? Well, it's what I want the text to taste like in your mind, right? What are the ingredients that I can use to like achieve this? Like the authors of old and authors of today all had like flavors that they tasted like with their eyes or whatever, right? Like something that they saw that inspired them, and then they put that they put the pen to paper just to like document it, record it, or twisted it into like something of their own, like a poem or even like an art piece that they drew, you know, because like, you know, you want to remember that, like, you know, just like cave paintings, you know, that it's just like, it's like a stamp of memory or whatever. And it's no different for me, you know, because I've tasted media, I've tasted like things that I've, you know, with my eyes essentially, that I would consider delicious, right? And it kind of put me into like you know, like a daydream state where you'd be sitting in class and you'd be like fantasizing about like, oh man, how would it feel like to be like in this world as a character, like say, I don't know, like pick, you know, insert your favorite movie, show, story, or whatever, and then, you know, you put yourself in there into the character's shoes, or even like a background character, and just wander the streets. And, you know, that's kind of like where, you know, those flavors kind of come in. It's just because like you want to, you know, you want to be in those worlds or something like that. You know, you want to feel like how it would be to live in them, type of thing. And I have obviously my own stories that I've seen, I've read, you know, or played games of, and I really liked, and they obviously shaped, you know, kind of like my, like what I consider like a good story, like what, like the story that I'm running, like what it is, you know, like what do I want it to taste like to you, to the reader or whatever. And I do have, I'll use the blue one. I have five that I'll just write down here, and we'll kind of talk about each one and what they kind of, like, what do they mean to me, right? So again, I don't know if I should edit this in, or if this is more cooler. I don't know. Let you guys know, or let me know in the comments or whatever. So here we go. So the very first one would be lore. kind of no surprise there. Whoops. No surprise there. It's a very famous story, very famous movie. Then the second one. Wait, I'm spelling that wrong. Hold on. There you go. Alita. Battle Angel. I mean, usually it's spelled like this way, so it'll be Battle Angel Alita, but whatever. It's a video. I'm not even thinking clearly. So that's the second one, and then Claymore. Claymore is the third, and Dragon Age. Origins. Did I spell that right? I hope I spelled. I don't think there's an I in there. I think there is. I think you can see that. Double check. Yeah, you can still see that. It's good. And then the last one is Dune. So, these are the 5 ingredients, right? That stuck to me, and they stuck in my brain, type of thing. And it's like watching these or playing them or reading them makes me want to take some stuff from it, right, and apply it into my own fiction, right? And why did they stick? Like, let's start with Lord of the Rings, right? Like, what is Lord of the Rings essentially? I've never read the books. I'm planning on reading the books in the future. I've watched the movies I watched the movies a handful of times, right? And the thing that stuck out to me the most from the movies was like how the details feel so heavy. Like, he makes the world feel alive, especially like how like there's different races, how they behave towards like the land they're inhabiting, as well as like towards themselves, and like their different factions, how they communicate, like what is the tension between them, how do they try to figure it out, how do they solve it, is it just through war, or is there other politics that they try to go through? And obviously the story of like the ring itself, and Smeagol's story, and how he's like why he is the way that he is, as well as Frodo and Sam, their journey through that entire journey. And I actually I think most people don't like the Hobbit movies, but I also loved the Hobbit movies as well. I honestly thought they were good. I don't know. I don't really know what the super hate is. It probably is because it has to do with the books. I'm assuming maybe that's the problem. But I enjoy watching them from the very first Lord of the Rings movie all the way to like the last or the latest Hobbit movie. It's a fun ride. Like, just once a year or so, I'll go around and I would rewatch all those movies like in like chronological order, or like order of release, essentially. I don't think chronological is correct. And so he essentially created the blueprint for like what is considered like a fantasy world. And that's like the lesson I want to take from it, is like I want to apply this knowledge, or this lesson of like filling my, like having like an ocean of ideas and concepts, just like giving my world like a heartbeat, right? And it's like when you step into the land, like you want to like there's languages that are created, there's certain like mannerisms of the characters, stuff like that. Excuse me. And like if you put yourself if you put yourself into that world, right? Like, and you try to like interact with the characters and like the shopkeepers, I'm not even talking about the main characters, but just like the background characters, like he has enough detail in there, and obviously the director that directed the movies, to feel like, yes, like you would know exactly how it would be like, type of thing. So that's what I'm trying to get at, is like the first lesson, the first ingredient from Lord of the Rings is, to me anyways, is the detail that is in that story that gives it that heartbeat, that makes the world feel alive. And that's like one of the lessons one of the ingredients I want to take out and, put it into my world. You know what I mean? And so I think, so that's Lord of the Rings. So like next, next we'll jump into Battle Angel Alita, or Alita Battle Angel, however you want to say. I'll just say Battle. The way I wrote it, whatever, just ignore it. So Battle Angel Alita. Now, these three actually, I can probably talk about all these. These three are kind of actually one in the same sense. So it's like I'll put them all in like one basket, So I'll just circle them. So essentially, they're kind of like one in the same. It's each one works together in a sense, and somehow, I don't know how, I can't remember, but these two ended up being like my first like exposure to like dark fantasy manga or something like that. Because I did watch like Dragon Ball Z, and obviously Naruto, but I never like read the mangas at the time. I don't know, I was too young or didn't see it or whatever it was. But then somehow, somewhere, some way, I stumbled upon Claymore, which was the first manga I read. And then after that, I found Battle Angel Alita, and I don't know where I even saw that, like how it happened, but it did, and I'm glad it did, because these stories are amazing. The authors who wrote them, incredibly imaginative, and like let's take Claymore for instance. Like this, like there is an event that happens near the beginning of the series, right? Where a prominent character gets beheaded, right? And to this day, I still like, since I read it for the first time, that emotion, that feeling that I got of that character, losing her life, still lingers in my head, right? So like the drama, the color palette of that series is super addicting. Like that's why I just kept reading it nonstop, and it has been a few years since I did like reread it, because I just like Lord of the Rings, Claymore was another series that I would revisit like multiple times, like almost yearly, but I haven't done it for a while. And actually, I don't know if you can see it in the video, like it's kind of awkward, like down, like you might see like a little bit of it, but I have like this collector's edition of like all the mangas in there, so maybe it's time I revisit that manga and with fresh eyes and reread it all the way through before the end of the year. But anyways, like the scenes in there, as dark as they are, as disheartening as it is, as unpleasant it is to watch, just to witness some of those events that happen in the story, it's still addicting, it's still fun, and it just, it's just one of those series that I just can't help but fall in love with. And again, it has characters that really like stuck in my head, like Claire being like the main like protagonist, again, one of my favorite like female characters, along with Alita, obviously. And she is just an incredible character. Oh, hold on, getting emotional randomly. But she's an incredible character, and the cool thing about this story is, it does this cool thing where, again, it's kind of a slight tangent, but like there's like, I always thought like, well, how cool would it be if like a character was like, was kind of like useless against weak characters, but strong against super strong characters. Like she herself wasn't like this crazy powerful beast of a character, but when faced with a foe who is far stronger than her, then she becomes strong, because I'm not gonna dive into the details, but certain things about strong foes make it easier for her to fight against them. And that is, again, is one of those flipping of the rules, essentially. And Claire is just one of those awesome characters. The design is awesome. The story is awesome. Everything is awesome. I love Claire. And then obviously Easley of the, oh god, is it North? I think it's North because he's like an ice guy or whatever. But Easley, honestly, hands down one of the coolest designs ever, and a power that he has where he can just shapeshift himself and shapeshift parts of his body into weapons has always been one of my favorite kind of like powers and stuff that I've always enjoyed in media. Actually, one of my favorite, like, I don't really care for Marvel that much. Yes, I enjoyed some of the older, like, Infinity War, whatever it was, when Thanos snapped and just turned everything to dust. Like, that was probably my favorite movie. And then Thor Ragnarok was the other one. But everything else is just kind of like, whatever. But Easley is awesome character, and he actually kind of slight tangent as well. In the Marvel universe, I used to watch. Maybe it was called Justice League. I don't remember. But there was a character called a Green Lantern, John Stewart. Best, hands down, the best Marvel character ever. No, that's DC, right? Whoops, that's DC. Hold on, my bad. That's DC. But anyways, he's still a superhero. Anyways, he's the best superhero ever. And I'm like, where is a John Stewart movie? Like, what are you guys doing? Like, how can you not make a movie about John Stewart? Like, tell me this right now. Like, that is just wild to me. But anyways, again, the only reason I'm bringing him up is because he's also, again, Green Lantern abilities is like, hey, they just use their mind and create all sorts of weapons to fit the situation. And Easley of the North is similar, where he can shapeshift his body and he can make swords, you know, bow and arrows. He's awesome. Like, he's just an awesome. He's cool looking in his human design form. He's amazing looking in his awakened form, and he has cool abilities. Hands down, badass character. And then obviously we cannot forget Priscilla. Oh my goodness, Priscilla. Just that scene. Again, the scene that I talked about earlier. Again, it'll never leave my head. I love that scene. And again, the whole shift in character, just crazy. Like, I remember, like I said, when I read it for the first time, it blew me away. And oddly enough, these names, Priscilla, Claire, and Easley, are actually like some of my favorite names of all time because of this manga. It's just how it is. So yeah, and I kind of honestly, not gonna lie, I wanna somehow squeeze these names into my fiction somewhere. Like, I will find a way to squeeze them in, because I just feel like I want to have like an inspired version of them in my world, so they can live in my world as well. Obviously, I'm not gonna copy it, but some kind of likeness will be inserted in there. Like, I'll promise you that. I should hold on. Let me grab some water. Again, it's crazy how fast the time goes. Like, it's already like 18 minutes in, and I just talked about like 2 things. Like, why does time go by so fast? I hope the battery doesn't die. Holy shit. Battery dies fast. Anyways. Excuse me. Next, let's jump into Battle Angel Alita. Similar reasoning, right? Except it's like a cyberpunk science fiction world, and it also has memorable characters. It has amazing settings, crazy events. It pulls on your heartstrings. It thrusts you into like wild ass fucking set pieces with, again, just the imagination with this author. Again, it's just like, how does one like do this? Like, how do you just come up with that? It's just amazing. Just throughout the pages, you're constantly bombarded with ooh, ah, you know, like those kind of things, like holy crap, like, or, you know, the art is just jaw dropping. So much detail. And this manga, I mean, I don't know why I did that. Alita, it introduced me to like one. It was, I think it could have been the very first one. I'm not sure, but right now I'm going to state that it was the first one. It introduced me to a, what do I call it? I'll call it the zoom out effect. I think that it could be appropriate, right? And what I mean by that is like the story starts in a scrapyard, right? And I'm sure you guys seen the movie. I have seen the movie as well, but I'm talking about the manga specifically. The movie was okay. It was pretty good. But again, right, what I'm discussing right now is the mangas of both Claymore and Alita. And yeah, so in Alita, it starts in the scrapyard. She gets found by Daisuke Ido. But he's like the doctor to fix like a cybernetic doctor. So he finds her in a scrapyard. Events happen, and then after certain events, certain arcs, or whatever, they end up on like that city, above the scrapyard or whatever. I don't remember the name of it. And then from there, they end up in space. It just expands. That's like, it goes like, that's what I mean about the zoom out effect. Like you're zoomed in on the scrapyard, and then by the end of it, you're in space. You're meeting all these dignitaries from Mars, Jupiter, or whatever. You have that guy that just loves eating ice cubes. I forgot his name too, but he's got like 3 brains implanted in his brain or something. Again, just imagination off the charts. And it's like one of those things is like by the time you finish the story or the manga or whatever, and you just look back at the first page, you get like this nostalgia feeling, like you've traveled so far throughout the pages that the first page, rereading the first page or re-looking at the first page, it's just like, wow, what a journey, right? This is like one, again, slight tangent, what One Piece is going to feel like to a lot of like, us that, that have been following for so many years, is it's just going to be a wild thing once it ends, and just seeing the first episode again, I'm excited, but not excited because I don't want it to end, but eventually it has to end. So yeah, that nostalgic feeling, that zoom out effect, the crazy character set pieces, and because I want to blend science fiction and fantasy together in my own fiction. This is why I chose these. I think this is also why these are just kind of stuck in my brain or in my heart or whatever. Again, not obviously the reasons I mentioned earlier, but also because one is more like dark fantasy, kind of world, and the other one is more, science fiction. So I feel like, because in my world I want to blend both them to, both those genres together, as well as like a horror aspect. And coincidentally enough, I watched a couple. Wow, I my throat doing that. Booktube videos, and they mentioned a Stephen King series called Dark Tower. And if I am not wrong, it does seem like that series does actually have all 3 of them. It has science fiction, fantasy, and a horror element, which makes sense because Stephen King is a horror author, correct? Correct. I'm pretty sure. I've never read any of the Stephen Kings. I do have the first Dark Tower novel back there, and I'll read it next year because, again, I'm pretty much booked for the rest of this year. Just too many books that I already have set, and I will not get to it. And so that's both Claymore and Battle Angel Alita. So we talked about all this, so let's dive into Dragon Age Origins. Now, this is a video game, right? And it's probably the best video game I've ever experienced. I don't think that's wrong. Again, there's Halo, there's Doom Eternal? No. Oh yeah, Doom Eternal. Is that my favorite? I don't know. But you got Halo like 2, Halo 1. I actually enjoyed Infinite quite well, but the story kind of was lackluster, but the gameplay was fine. But Dragon Age strictly is for like the story, is why I think it stuck, and it's the only game I've replayed more than twice, like all the way through. And I think I think it's a major achievement for any game. I think because I mean games are long and they take a lot of time and effort, right? Especially one like Dragon Age, and it's because it has a well-written story. It has great characters, right? And they, as you interact with them, you can't help but like fall in love with them, like depending on who, which character you're talking. And then there's some characters you just want to die, right? And one character in particular, Morgan, she is just a standout character for me. No matter what I kind of try to do, good ending, bad ending, whatever, the ending of the game always left me feeling sad, because it's just no matter what I try to do, like you want to keep that character, you want to, like, at least for me anyways. And Alistair was another one I enjoyed, and forgetting, the other names are slipping, they're escaping my grasp, but like I said, like it's such a great world. It's such great character chemistry. It's such great. I mean, the gameplay is fun as well. But again, that's not what really stuck with me. It's just the whole ride from beginning to end, and it just causes emotions to stick around. And to me, I feel like you may forget certain character names, certain character or place name, like what is like this town called, what is this character's name, whatever. But the emotions that you felt as you were playing the game stick around way longer than anything else, and that's one of the key things that I feel like the key lessons from this game that I feel like I got, because that I have that or gave me or whatever. Again, I can't find the right words, and that I want to put into my world as well. It's like when you read my story, like I want you to cheer for certain characters, I want you to hate certain characters. I want, like, what I mean. Like I want you to be attached to the characters, to maybe even to places like a town, a city, a river, a fucking rock could be a character. Like I want to take lessons from this game or whatever to be able to craft those kind of emotions through text. You feel me? You feel what I'm trying to like say? So this is like the lesson. This is why I feel like this game stuck with me, because they made you care for these characters. And I think Mass Effect did it pretty well too, but not like this game. I honestly feel like no other game. I've tried to play other games, especially the newer ones. Again, this is not the video to talk about it, but most of the newer games are just flops. I don't know what's happening, what's going on, but it's just nobody cares about the story anymore in video games, I feel like, and it's very rare to find a game nowadays. There's indies, obviously, but at least from AAA, besides Expedition 33, which I haven't finished yet, but that's probably the only one in like forever, since I was like, wow, this is actually a decent story. Anyways, okay, reel it in. Now let's talk about Dune. Same with Lord of the Rings. I did not read the book yet. I do have the book. I have the first one. I will read it next year as well. But I have watched the movies, and I watched them a shit ton of times, bro. I can't get enough of rewatching the movies. I can rewatch them. I can watch them like, again, I don't know. It just feels like every time I rewatch the movie, it's like I'm almost watching it for the first time. I don't know how he does it. I forgot his name. The director is, it's not Davis. It's Denis Villeneuve. Please don't crucify me for mispronouncing his name. But he has made some of my favorite movies. Like Dune 1 and 2 are my favorite. Like are just some of the best movies I've seen. But if I were to, like, if somebody said, like, what would be like your, I don't know, like your God movie or your the number one movie of all time or whatever, it honestly would be Arrival. I think Arrival is probably the greatest movie made in like the last, I don't know, 10, 15 years. I don't know. That movie is as close as to a 10 as you can ever get. In, again, this is my opinion. It's so good. It's so fucking good. But again, we're talking about Dune right now. I'll probably talk about Arrival in a later video, for just a random video. But like I said, going back to Dune, it's the aesthetics of Dune. It's how all the designs look. It's how the ships look. It's the clothing, the architecture, the language, the whole idea with spice. Again, the scene in the first Dune movie where they were just getting the decree or order, whatever it was, from the Emperor to go to Arrakis. So you see the ship landing on Arrakis, and you have all those dignitaries or those officials walking out into like this podium or whatever, and he presses the ring into the thing to seal the deal. Like that whole scene, dude, is so good. Like from the ship landing to the exchange to how all the costumes looked, the sounds, the music, like overall, it's just so good, dude. And that's what I mean about aesthetics. It's just, I want to capture in words, and obviously I need to, like, you know, study up on architecture, read on architecture, whatever, go outside, touch some grass, you know, take some pictures of like buildings and stuff all around, and just study how they're like their own stories, and just inject it into my world and like bend it and twist it, stuff like that. So like I said, the overall aesthetics, the overall palette of Dune and Dune 2 is just a feast for the eyes, right? It's a feast for the eyes, and it's a feast for the ears, because the sound work in that movie, again, is just so fucking good, dude. You like, man, I'm so bad with words. My vocabulary is too pathetic to really describe how I see the movie in my head, right? And this is where, again, I'm hoping to improve myself in the future. Like I said, it's a feast for the eyes, feast for the ears, and it's this thing that just sticks with me, right? And there is also another thing that really sticks out for me with Dune, and it is the simple fact of how he solved the issue of guns. Look, I am not opposed to guns. I am a licensed owner myself. I love them. However, for story purposes, in my fucking opinion, guns are nothing but a hindrance. Because, I mean, unless you're writing a John Wick type of story, sure. But in fantasy or whatever, and again, you can do it. It's been done before. But for me personally, guns are just a hindrance. Like, what's the point of having cool fighting techniques, cool fighting stances, weapons like swords and all that stuff? Like, what is the point of all that in your story if you can just grab a little thing, go pew 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 pew, and then like boom, that's it, the story's over. Like, now the fight's done. Like it's fun. Like, again, if you're writing a John Wick film style, like, yes, it's fun. You're gun fu, go crazy. But for me personally, I love hand-to-hand combat. It's more the intimate, the more, raw. It's just more raw, more intimate. Like, if you want to end somebody's life, it's just in story. I feel like if you write it where the character uses like a blunt object or a blade or even their fist, like in the story, I think it'll give way more impact than like, oh, he ran into the room and he pulled the trigger and he blew his blew the victim's brains out, like if it's like a murder mystery story or whatever, versus like he broke into the apartment, grabbed the nearest like a pair of scissors, and then just ended the life of the victim with multiple stab wounds to the throat. Like that already is just like it's just a more intimate, more uncomfortable read than oh he just shot him. And again, what he created in Dune by what's it called, the Holtzman shield, I think that's what it's called. I hope I'm not mixing it up with the Empire of Silence, but I think it is the Holtzman shield. I think it's genius, right? So now like it makes sense in the world to be like, well, this is why they have to have hand-to-hand combat, because the shield just stops any I believe it stops anything that like any fast projectiles, so blades pass through it, bullets do not. Super cool, awesome. It's a lesson, it's a something I will take from Dune, besides the aesthetics and all that stuff. I will take the lesson of, if I don't like something, right? If I find something I don't want in my story, like guns, come up with a reason to make them unnecessary, so the reader doesn't say like, well, why don't they have guns? Stuff like that. But the reason has to be good enough so it doesn't leave the reader like bemused, because they're like, well, again, you don't. The last thing I want is to ask them, well, why I didn't do this? Why couldn't you do that? I am confused. There's the reason. Here's your reason. And that's like, again, the lesson that I'm taking from Dune is like, take some fucking time, think about what you're writing, and then try to come up with a solution to keep something that you don't want in your story away. But like I said, it has to make sense. And like I said, Dune is like a good example of that. So I hope I don't think I'm forgetting anything, right? It's hard. I keep looking at the viewfinder, sorry. But I don't think I missed anything. So I hope I fostered an image into your mind, and got your taste buds, feeling around for the flavors of like what kind of fiction I am trying to cook up here. Again, these are the 5. Again, there's other stories that I consider like good teachers, I guess, but these are the 5 that just always stuck with me. And like, again, if somebody says, randomly walks up on the street, it's like, oh, what is your favorite game? Like, it's always going to be Dragon Age. Obviously, there's other great games. If I take the time to think about it, I can come up with. But this is why these 5 are up here, because this is a quick, automatic response. That means these mean something to me. So this is why I have these. This is the lessons that I'm taking from each one. And again, just squeezing them and just dripping them into my world and painting my world with their blood. That's kind of fucked up, but so yeah. So next, let's erase this and we'll talk about topic 2. And we're already 38 minutes in. Why is making videos so hard to make them small? How do people make 20-minute videos, bro? Okay, so actually, I'm gonna quickly check the battery. We got 28%. I might have to pause the video and swap the battery. But which I'll probably try. It'll be a good test. So anyways, so we talked about the flavor. Now let's talk about framework. And then I'll also add this. be. So that's 1, 2. Okay. So, framework. What is it? Let's start with the definition. I have my, I don't know if you can see it. I have my Collins dictionary over there. And the definition of framework from that dictionary is a structure or frame supporting or containing something. So that's the definition, right? Support, contain. Keywords here, right? In my opinion, this is my opinion. Also remember, I am a nobody. I am not a big artist. I'm not a big published author or anything, but I can still have opinion, and I want to be an author. So in my opinion, world building. So world building and character building. That B stands for building. I didn't want to write building. Mean nothing if you don't have a framework in place. This is where I think this is like framework has to be, in my opinion, above any of this. It keeps the story contained. It supports your decisions. Like if you write certain things, and they into the story, like it should filter through the framework, right? So any decisions, if the framework supports your decisions, it supports your, and it's contained within the framework, then it just makes the story better, in my opinion, because there's plenty of examples I can come up with where the story seems to get away from the author, right? It devolves into a chaotic mess, which forces the author to like come up with like what do they call it, DSX machina, in order to get over some obstacle that they themselves wrote. It's like, well, what the heck, you know? And like, I am not a published author. I don't have any works out there in the world, like at all yet. But even before I started writing, like this year, I have like simulated or like ran through the story in my head for many years. And every I got the characters, the story, and I'm just running through it like playing like a movie in my head, and every single time in the middle of the story it just crumbles. It turns into a whirlwind of confusion, and it doesn't matter if I focus on the characters for like character building or the world building first. It doesn't matter which one's on top. The story ended up not making any sense. It just turned into nonsense. And this is where my conclusion, or the conclusion I came up with, is like, well, what's missing? And it's a robust framework. This sets up rules, boundaries, core structures, essentially the building blocks of which the entire world like sits on. I mean, so like essentially with this, like this is still number one, right? But it would be like here, like colonnades, or just pillars holding all this up. It's like you be able to trace, like it's like tracing your finger down the claded branch and finding all the way down to like the most basic life form, the basic organism. That is like what the power of framework gives your world, essentially, in my opinion. And like, how are you supposed to build a world with no rules? Like, well, I don't think you can, but if you do, which I feel like I've done in my head, at some point, you're gonna tangle yourself into like a big mess, and then you'll have no choice but to like cut the story or cut the whatever, or just burn it, because now again, like how you like you've kind of like I said, you're in a mess because you don't have anything holding you back or telling you like oh well, now you're kind of stepping out of line here because you're not really breaking your rules, because you didn't make any rules, so you're kind of making stuff up as you go. I think that makes sense, right? So that's why I put so much stock and thought into the idea of like building a framework. Like I want to be able to explain to the reader how things work. Like if this reader asks like, well, how like say I come up with like a random character, right? We'll call him Billy the Drowner, who can siphon air from like a set perimeter, correct? If the reader asks me, the author, how does he do it? How does he do this? Like how is it possible for him to do this? What? And then they can ask me another question, like, well, what is the limits of this power, or what about his own limits, like the limits of his flesh? So like how far can he push the power, like himself? Like, you know, these are the questions. Or even something like if it's a learnable ability, how strong would it be on another character? Like these are the answers I should be able to provide the reader. And I'm trying my best to avoid things like if a character hits like the death's door, you know what I mean? Like they got beaten up by like say a villain or something, and they're like about to die, and then, you know, like I said, the Reaper is just like, you know, he's at their throats, he's about to just, and all of a sudden they awaken some ancient power. They some, you know, whatever, you know, ancient power, then they get a power up, or even worse, kind of worse, not worse, you know, unlock the power of fucking friendship or whatever, which again allows them to gain this crazy power level or something like that. And then all of a sudden, and even worse sometimes, if it ends up being some ancient power or whatever, they all of a sudden know how to use it, and then they just topple the problem, and they just defeat the bad guy. And I'm just like sitting to myself like, well, what the hell just happened here? Like I said, I'm not allergic to characters overcoming insurmountable odds. What's the word I'm looking for? What not cliche, tropes. So I'm not opposed to them, you know, overcoming insurmountable odds with tropes, but I just don't want it to be. I don't want it to be like peppered all the way through my story. Like I don't want to. That can't be like a crutch it can't be a crutch. You know, like I don't mind having it, and I probably will have it in my story. I just don't want it to Swiss cheese my story. Like every time I come to some sort of problem, I just blast holes through the paper, and I'm like, well, this is how they solve it. You know, imagine like on a piece of paper, the bad guy's name is written on like, you know, halfway through the page, and I just like blast a hole, boom, the bad guy's gone because there's a hole in the page. He doesn't exist. You know, I don't know if that's a good, you know, analogy or example, but that's what I'm trying to say. Like, I don't want to Swiss cheese my story just because I can't come up with a reason to be like, well, how do they beat this? You know, so that, you know, the hammer to the nail is, or the point I want to drive is, I think, putting aside character development and world building just to focus on crafting a set of systems that in case your story with like rules, disciplines, to keep you as a writer or author disciplined, is, I think, will in the end build a stronger story, right? Or at least in my mind. That's just how my mind works, because again, I feel like it's that important. and it gives your story guts. Like, again, one of the things I always tell myself is like, when I write something and I take that piece of paper and I rip it and I shake it, like I'll give me an example. Again, this video is like already 50 minutes long. So I draw a circle, right? Here's a freaking circle. And if I take the paper and I rip it, this is like almost, well, it's almost in half, and I shake it, like there's nothing falls out of it because there's no guts to the story. There's no guts to anything. So that's where framework comes in. Like, framework is just that important, and it gives you the guts. It gives you the life into your story, like I mentioned earlier in the video, where when we talked about Lord of the Rings and what it does and why it's so special. It's because it gives you guts. So you rip the damn story in half, you will find a crap ton of contents to support everything else that happens in the world, essentially. So I think I should pause the video here and then change the battery out. So I will see you in a second. Hello, what you doing? Got my little glass of water. It's from the Kraken spiced rum. It's like a little set, or it just came with it. So yeah, grab some water. It's a long video. And I've been just burning through these batteries like crazy. I might have to just get one of those. There's like a little thing that they sell. You stick it to the camera, plug it into the socket, and it never dies. That's what I gotta get with this, I think. These batteries die so fast. Again, I just keep talking, and somehow these videos turn into like these hour-long discussions. Like I said, it's crazy how fast this happened. Anyways, so I did change the whiteboard to the final two topics. These are not as like in depth as the other ones, so it should be a quicker. Just it'll wrap up faster, I think. So without further ado, cosmic web out of thin air. What the hell does that mean? Cosmic web, or cosmic web, as it implies, it's it should be kind of obvious. It's a web that I cast as wide as I can in hopes of catching new ideas that can help me shape or reshape my my work, right? The world is vast, right? Like it's huge. Like, I mean, it's big, but the world of word seems way more vaster. That correct? Is that a real word? Well, it's a real word in this video, because it's just like, as I don't know who said it before, but it's like you live one life, but then there's somebody that said like, hey, when you read a book or whatever, be it fiction or nonfiction, I think it applies to both. Is like, well, now you're living through the eyes of another character, so you can live multiple lives through text, essentially. And it really does. That's what it really feels like. And like, it does feel like each planet, or not each planet, each book is like a little planet. You know, I was gonna say his book is like a universe, but I think that doesn't make any much sense. So I think it makes more sense to say each book is like a planet, especially books like freaking long series, like I said, The Wheel of Time is like, was it 14 books? So you have like literally 14 planets around like the star, and the star is like the authors, you know, Robert Jordan. I'm sorry, I don't remember the author, but I do remember Brandon Sanderson was the one that finished the series. Again, I haven't read it yet. I'll probably read it next year, but you know what I mean. Like, you know, that's what, you know, you got a solar system of books essentially, and you know, you're reading and discovering what those books have, and you're going through the lives of the characters in there and stuff like that, which again in turn helps me grow, you know, makes me more, lets me see things from different points of views essentially, and and that like I said, it has a big impact. Just like this, again, I only started reading this year, right? And I've only read like 8 books. Again, I'm getting close to, well, not close, but I'm halfway through the 9th book. And already I can already tell it has a big impact on me. Like the web itself is getting larger, it's getting stickier, which doesn't let those ideas escape as easily, you know? And this helps me increase my observation, because just like with art, like those books down there, a lot of those books talk about like the fundamentals of art, and one of the fundamentals essentially is like observation. Like if you want to be a good artist or whatever, like it pays to pay attention to the small details, every detail, to everything, you know, how things are put together, how things are made, what is the framework of the things that you're looking at. Essentially, I think if you know how something's put together, you can more easily replicate it in art or in writing, you know what I mean? So it's an essential skill that makes you, like, it helps you to become a better author and better artist. And obviously the more observant you become, I feel like the bigger the web gets, because you know more, so you can push it out even further and start grabbing ideas that are potentially way more outside your skill level, essentially. So, you know, it's those little details, or those whatever, that eventually build up into big ones, and it crafts like a stronger, more powerful web. So that's cosmic web. Out of thin air is, and going back to the cosmic web, out of thin air, it's like pulling ideas out of thin air. It's like when, like, I'm sure you've experienced it before, where you'll be like walking, taking a walk, or you're in the shower, or at school, or at home, or at work. I think it happens a lot at work. And you get this randomly awesome idea that just like springs into the front of your like mind's eye, right? And you just feel like someone just like handed you something that you've been searching all your life, you know? It's like out of nowhere, and you just be like, well, how the heck does that happen? You know, it's like how I feel like dreams are like that. You just get random ass dreams, and sometimes you find answers in there, and it's just like, how the hell does that happen? It's like, how are we literally connected through some kind of like mind satellite or whatever the heck? And again, that's what I mean. These ideas just pop out of thin air. It's crazy, and they tend to be almost, or no, they sometimes, no, for stumbling here. They turn into like these game changers for authors, I feel like, because if you get this crazy idea, like you're working on something, then you sleep on it, or you're walking or whatever, and you get this new idea just out of nowhere that somehow, maybe you had a question or whatever, and this idea just pops up, and it somehow just answers an issue. And sometimes it's an even issue to even think about, and then just takes your work into a completely new direction. You're just like, where did this new path come from? Like, when I was walking, all I saw was a straight path, but then all of a sudden I blinked and there's like a path to the left, and now it's like this completely new biome or whatever. It's just crazy how that happens. These kind of ideas are just wild sometimes. And again, this is like why having a cosmic web in place helps you like snag them more, you know. And as you improve the stickiness or whatever, the strength of your web, you can have, I feel like you'll be able to have those moments more often. You know what I mean? I feel like, I don't know if I'm making any freaking sense. Again, it's like literally 1 a.m. as I'm trying to wrap up this recording, so I'm like delirious, I think. But you know what I mean, you know, because like I'm gonna tell you, like, I'm not a genius or a rocket scientist or anything like that. And again, I can barely add 1 + 1 here, bro. But I mean, it doesn't matter. Like I can just pull equations, solutions, concepts, whatever you name it. I can just pull them out of thin air, like, which just again strengthens the framework and it enriches like the flavor. And like again, I'll probably go into detail in another video, but it's just like I read a book. One of the 8 books that I read was called The Little Book on String Theory. I'm not gonna pull it. I don't know where it is. Anyways, and it's like a short little book that talks about, string theory, and specifically, I think one of the newer ones called M theory. And as I was reading it, obviously I didn't get everything that they were talking about, because again, it's speech that if you're not in that clique of scientists, like, you're not really going to understand what the heck you're talking about. It's like gated, essentially, because if you're not a scientist, you're not going to get it. If you're not a researcher, you're not going to get it. You're an ordinary person. It's like listening to like a gamer talking about like a game that they've like invested tons of time into. If you've never played that game, you'll have no idea what the heck they were talking about. So this is like the same thing, but the one thing that I got out of it was like, I don't think they know what they're doing either. This is like for real, bro. Like, there's so many terms that they've came up with. Like, I'm trying to think of some on the top of my head, like brains, like BRANES. You have brains like D0, D1. Then you have, man, I should have wrote some down. They were so hilarious. There's symmetry. There's super they come up with something called symmetry, and then they might run into like an issue, and it may or may not work. Then they'll be like, oh well, maybe there's something called supersymmetry, and then they'll be working on that, and then they'll be like, well, we can't get this to work because it needs to be like 26 dimensions. That's the only way that it can work. And then they'll be like, oh no, it doesn't work this way, because for M theory to work or whatever, it needs to be only 11 dimensions. You know what I mean? They don't know what they're fucking talking about, because obviously it hasn't been discovered, so they have to put like a label or come up with like, again, I think math is art in itself, and they literally have to doodle up some random equation just to try to find it, like even like a tiny bit of like movement into the direction that they want to go to find the answer, And I'm just like, that's why out of thin air is kind of like important as well, and it's kind of be like the closing of this, like the colonnades or whatever that hold the roof together. It's these 4 pillars that I've talked about, and out of thin air essentially is again one of those things that just like, who gives a fuck if I don't know all the equations that I need? Obviously I will study them. Obviously I have books here. I have books, don't get me wrong, and they come in handy. Like, I can read them, I can learn them, I can get some ideas out of it. I mean, people go to college for like fucking 10 years to get good at this. I'm not expecting to be a genius at it, but if I can find anything to latch onto, I can take what I just learned, or I think I learned, and then just come up with my own equation out of thin air. Just be like, okay, I'm gonna apply this to this random dimension, and then say I'd be like, well, I'll take this. What does this even mean? Who knows? I don't know. It's just like random scribbles. But I mean, in my world, I can just pull crap out of the thin air and be like, well, this means friction, and this means speed, and then this means like the weight or the mass of the object, and this is like, well, this is how much weight it loses as it travels and gets burned up in the atmosphere. You know what I mean? Like, there is really nothing stopping me with coming up with bullshit, out of thin air. That's what I mean about pulling shit out of thin air. And that's why the cosmic web feeds into, out of the thin air pillar, and vice versa. Because then, like, sometimes that can be like, I'll come up with like a funky idea and then actually turns out to be like a legit thing, and then I read about that thing and I gain more knowledge, so I snag more information, and then it just feeds back into this pillar, and then I can increase, come up with more bull crap to add to this formula just to explain something. And I didn't talk about it. I should have mentioned it. No, I can mention it here. I think. There would be 3 layers to my story. Stop looking at the camera. 3 layers to my story. The reader does not have. I will probably never put layer 3 into the book. It's like this shit that you don't need to know. As long as it makes sense to me. As long as when I write it, like I said, like here's a scenario, a random scenario. Like, again, I should probably wrap the video. Say a character A and character B. They're fighting. There's a clash. They're in some meadow or whatever. And then there's like this happened to be like this stone pillar that just standing up, like a stone, almost kind of looks like a lighthouse or whatever. And character A smacks character B, and character B flies into like the stone, face or whatever. I want BS formulas or real formulas or whatever, but formulas nonetheless to tell me like, well, based on the force that character B flew against the stone wall, what is the damage to the stone wall? What is the damage to, character B's body? How much HP does he lose, or stuff like that. And that stuff that's those formulas, those HP numbers, I probably will never put into my story. You'll never see them. But layer 1 and 2, that's like, well, this is layer 1 would be like somebody saying, well, this is the technique. This is what technique what technique A does. It's, you get the name of it, what it does, maybe how you learn it, and then layer 2 will go a little deeper and it'll talk about, well, you need to get your body to this level, you gotta upgrade this equipment or use this equipment to be able to use this technique at this level. You know what I mean? It's like an extra layer in the explanation or the lore dump of whatever I'm trying to explain to you, for me to try to make it make sense to you, essentially. So when they use it, when they do something, it's like, oh, well, they had the scientist or this wise old man explain in detail of what this thing does, how to do it, how to do it safely, or what are the negative effects if you go beyond a certain limit, or if you use it more than once a day, that kind of bullshit. And again, layer 3 is more like, most gamers don't give a fuck about like how the code of video game code looks like. Like, we're not developers. Unless you're a modder, most gamers don't give a shit. And that's again, I don't have it written down here, but that's what layer 3 is. And again, that's where the frame the out of thin air comes into place. Again, it's just BS crap that is only just for me, really. And if I have to pull things out of thin air just for things to make sense, as long as they make sense and as long as I have an answer for you, just like the people, the researchers do when they try to figure out, what is dark matter, dark energy, why is the universe spreading, and they just come up with theories. Like they're not proven 100%. They're just a theory. They just think they think that this is how it works, and I can do the exact same thing. That's just how it is, and as long as it's repeatable, then it works. And as long as I'm happy and it doesn't devolve, again, going back to framework, as long as it's outside like the structure that I have built, we're totally Gucci, man. So, okay, I think I talked enough. I think in closing, I'm trying to think if I missed anything. So I guess I'll try to end it. So what I want to say, like in closing, I feel like you shouldn't be afraid to put your writing, your story, your character building, your world building aside, and try to come up with at least just like 3 rules. It can be, it doesn't have to be super detailed, it doesn't have to be too intense, but just 3 rules, and then bring in your world building, your story, like for your framework, and then put that stuff on top of your framework, and then see how the story progresses. I mean, it could make your story better. If it doesn't, then maybe you have to change them or whatever, or revise them. But I feel like, again, I do feel like you do have to have some level of framework in place if you want your story to smoothly reach the end, like the closing curtain, and I do, again, it just really does feel like that might be the only way to do it. Again, maybe I'm wrong here, but I don't know. I just how I feel, and that's how I'm progressing with my my own fiction. And this is why I have these 4 pillars, or 4 colonnades, or whatever you want to call them, that are holding up like they're the underlining foundation that holds the world building and the character development, and they keep everything as in check as possible, so things just don't go spiraling out of control. Mainly, again, especially in like the power leveling area, how strong some ships can get, or how strong certain weapons, like if you're building like your own Death Star or whatever, like you have to have some sort of framework in place to just keep things making sense, and I guess consistent throughout the world, throughout your entire story, type of thing. I think I'll end it here. It's a long ass video. I'm not gonna edit it. I'm just gonna post it on YouTube. Fuck yeah. So, for the outro, thank you for watching. Do subscribe if you found this video even a morsel entertaining. So, have a good rest of your day. Have a good night, evening, morning. And if you're golfing on, let's say, if you're golfing on Neptune, then I hope you get a hole-in-one. I think that's it. See ya. I'm closing the portal now. Oh no, it won't close. There we go. We're closed. But yeah, seriously, guys. If you stuck around this long, you're an MVP in my book. Okay. See ya. And wait for my next video, which will be more booktube style. Bye-bye.